It was you expected it to really come down hard, an inch an hour, and we really didn't see that. I don't know that anybody did. Did anybody?
No, I mean, it was a little nasty.
Actually, yesterday they were calling for a couple feet of snow in Tug Hill. They actually lost 4 inches. Really weird. I don't know. They might have gotten a lot of snow. I don't know. The only thing that was more of a dud in the last 24 hours than this storm is the value of Bitcoin.
I haven't even looked at it.
You should look. They're calling it a, what did I read? They're calling, right now.
I'm going to owe more money when this is over.
They're in it. You might owe money. You might have to pay money out. It's like, well, if you want to keep this thing open, you're going to have to kick in some dough. I'm pretty sure they have a label for this. There might be a drought, and then it becomes winter. And right now, Bitcoin and all of that cryptocurrency is in a phase called winter.
Yeah, there's a wind chill warning on my app
there
here.
is.
Yeah.
They're saying that it's on the verge of, I don't know, apocalypse or something. It's really bad. Nuclear, maybe. Nuclear, it's not good. You might be down to. You started out with what, about $800?
No, God, it was $700.
Your investment was like almost $800.
Yeah.
And at one point, you're like, "Look at this! Look at me! I'm over $2,000. I've got this is great." Did you ever get up that high?
I bought in and it immediately started to plummet.
It is almost as if the moment you bought, Bitcoin plummeted.
Yeah.
You're looking at your numbers as you do that. I'll give you some other stuff.
Oh my God, I'm here. It didn't take me too long to find it or calculate it. Now I have $64.
$64.
Now that's Litecoin.
Wow.
That was Litecoin. Now when I bought into
crypto, all the cryptocurrencies have tanked. It's not just like
it was
one
over
of them.
10. I think it was over 10. It was over 10 grand for Bitcoin when I started with the cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
It's down to 3,400. So that's a seventh. I mean, at least a 7,000, probably more.
Yeah.
But at least a $7,000.
So you
loss
could buy
for
a Litecoin for $3,400.
for $30. Oh, you could buy a Bitcoin for $3,400.
Okay.
Which
Who
was
would
the one
want to go down that road right now?
I know.
I don't know.
Right?
Well, like you said, I'm going to keep it in the account, and who knows what.
You
happens.
never know. I mean, what are you going to do now? It's not like
Cash in my 64
I gotta get my $60 out. I mean, at this point, you might as well hang with it. Although I will tell you, when I told you might as well hang with it, it isn't that much money. I think you still had like $700.
Yeah, well,
that's gone. Big news out of New York City. This trial has been going on, the trial of El Chapo. What is interesting is there's so much other news happening between the shutdown and the president and the Russia investigation and Mueller and all of this. I almost feel like if you're outside New York City, because it was big news in New York City, the El Chapo trial has been kind of quiet around the country.
Yeah, absolutely.
Had all of this other stuff not been going on, I think we would have been talking about it every day. Because there was amazing stuff. It seems like every single day they came out of this trial. And remember, it all started where they decided that they couldn't trust when they give the commute. They were thinking about actually having him spend the night at the courthouse because they were afraid there'd be some sort of an escape when they were traveling from the jail to the courthouse. They'd have to shut down bridges and everything. It's crazy.
It's been going on for like 2 months, too.
They were going to dig a tunnel under the Hudson. And
Tanya Powers is here to report. I believe the defense rested pretty quickly. This trial is going to the jury here. What's going on, Tanya?
Look, by the way, if any of those folks would like to come dig us an extra tunnel under the Hudson,
that might be a good idea. Yeah,
we would appreciate that.
Yeah, that would certainly alleviate traffic a little bit.
Cuomo's like, if you guys do this tunnel, we'll let you go.
Yeah,
it'll be the Lincoln, the Holland, and the Cuomo.
That's a little bit of a problem. So, okay, this could be a solution. You guys may have just hit on it.
I like it. Now, Tanya, I want to warn you. I'm going to hit you with another topic, another New York City topic that I wish I could have with our Peter Franklin, the Gabby Cabby, yesterday, and I wasn't able to, but we'll stand by for that one. Let's start with El Chapo here. It looks like the defense, they spent only like 30 minutes, right?
Yeah, here's the ratio of time that the prosecution spent versus the time the defense spent. Are you ready for this? 11 weeks the prosecution spent, like something like 36 witnesses.
Wow.
Okay, the prosecution put on 30 minutes and one witness for the defense.
Wow.
and entered one document into evidence. That was it before they rest the case, and then the jury was sent home for the day. They're going to start closing arguments today, and that'll probably go today and tomorrow. It's crazy. I mean, who would have thought this would have lasted 11 weeks to start with? I mean, they had to get through a lot of stuff, but that's a long time.
When you're talking about those numbers, the prosecution, basically the duration of the prosecution's case, not that they spent every minute on this, was 1,848 hours. And the defense spent a half an hour. So that is quite a differential there. Yeah.
And I said 36 witnesses. It's actually 56.
Wow.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Apparently there were quite the moments of drama. I mean, there was the point where El Chapo's mistress testified with his wife sitting in the courtroom.
Yeah.
There apparently were some tales of El Chapo running naked through an underground tunnel to evade a manhunt. A lot of bribes and money and things that this guy would do. I mean, remember he's the boss of the Sinaloa cartel, and they had
right.
cocaine empire. So
they're even saying like maybe the president of Mexico at the time took a huge bribe, and he of course says that's not true, but that's what came out of testimony.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of like you said. I would have thought this would have been a much larger story, but when all the oxygen is sucked up with other topics that are more important, like the government shutdown and people without work. I mean, it's no wonder that this kind of got relegated to what else is news.
Yeah, stole all of the thunder. Okay, so with that, so it'll go to the jury, deliberation, all of that. Chances are, I guess he'll be found guilty. The defense basically saying everyone you called is a criminal. They can't be trusted. They're liars. They're criminals. Well,
that was basically they were kind of like I said, 30 minutes for the defense, 11 weeks for the prosecution.
Yeah, wow. All right, so I would like to bring you to another story that happened in New York City, and it shocks me that everywhere the mayor there, the governor, always big on making sure we are handicap accessible, and we learn that the subways are not even close to handicap accessible.
No, not even close.
And the story of this woman carrying, there's an escalator out, but not an escalator in. She's carrying her baby in a stroller down the stairs, falls. The baby's okay, but the mother died of her injuries. Terrible story. And now, we don't know yet if she died, maybe she had a stroke or something happened as she was going down the stairs. But it's also possible, right, that she could have fallen, broken her neck, and died.
Yeah, and I'm familiar with the station that she is that this happened at. It's not too far from here.
It's in a pretty nice area of New York City.
Yeah, it's in Midtown. Yeah. So this is not. It really points to the larger problem of the fact that I think maybe I don't know if it's a fourth of the stations have elevators. I can't remember what the statistic is, but it's
and imagine
a
the
really
line
low number compared to the amount of people that the MTA shuttles back and forth.
Imagine the line getting in, going down one of those elevators. You'd
people
never
bumping into each other.
It wouldn't be possible.
Well, yeah, I mean it's very it's difficult. It's really difficult. I don't know how many moms and dads for that matter I have helped up grabbed the bottom of the stroller while trying to get up and down the stairs because if when my kids were little, there's no way I could have dealt with strollers and stairs and everything else. Not to mention the elderly people who don't get around very well and can't deal with stairs. How do they get there? Where do they go?
And this is all happening usually in a busy commute. So oftentimes it's a herd, and there's someone that is late. They want to catch that train. And they're pushing. It's it is a bit, especially if you have young kids. And here's this woman carrying one of these little umbrella strollers, carrying the stroller down the stairs. She falls. The stroller goes. The kid's not hurt, but the woman dies, possibly of her injuries.
Yeah,
wow.
I mean it's something that really needs to be addressed. It should have been way before now. I honestly don't know how they get away with not being handicapped accessible.
It's unbelievable.
Or just with basic stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like you said, nobody's got patience. Everybody just will literally. I've been shoved out of the way so many times by people trying to catch a train or whatever.
And it's not like a few people are going through these. There are millions of people that are passing down that stairway. And meanwhile, the governor pushed to have this new legislation where every new construction, a bathroom, a public restroom, has to have a changing table. That's awesome. That's great.
Not a priority.
But I think you got to prioritize a little bit here.
Well, and now that the election's over, where's all the focus and attention on the subway system? It was a big thing in the governor's race.
You're right, it was.
Now that it's over and done with.
All right, Tanya, we're appreciative of your knowledge and information. Thank you so much.
Oh, anytime. Thanks, guys.
You have a wonderful day. Thanks.
Is New York City lacking gentlemen? Nobody, you see a woman carrying a stroller downstairs. No one says, "Hey, can I help?" Now I get it, kind of, that it's New York City, and if I was a lady, I wouldn't be sure, stranger, carry my baby.
Right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, nobody helps.
Yeah, I think you get your. Well, at this point, they helped when she fell. So and the child is okay, but how does that happen? How are they not even an escalator would allow the person to easily make their way down that stairway? I mean, there's escalators. There are escalators going up, but not down.
And not even an escalator. You can take half a staircase and make it a ramp, a quarter of a staircase, and just cement over the top of it so it's a ramp.
Yep. Well, there you have it. Quite an interesting story. We have a lot of stuff going today, including, believe it or not, a cure for one of the biggest killers in the world. This might be, we've always talked about the moment where, boy, that'll come when there's a cure for cancer. And believe it or not, they believe they have a cure for cancer. Now you're thinking that this is some crazy story out there that is going to turn into nothing. They believe this comes out of Israel. They're 3 years away from this being on the market. It might take us another 13 years to approve it by the FDA here in this country. But 3 years away from an absolute cure to cancer. And we'll tell you about that coming up. It's an amazing story out of Israel this morning. 6:30, hold on tight. Andrew does the news coming up. There's a candidate running for the Utica Common Council. We'll get him on in a few minutes. He's, I believe, driving. We're going to catch him as he's driving here this morning. We'll get to all of it coming up at WIBX. Rachel standing by right now. And what are you looking at, Rachel? It's storm totals, and then the next phase of this whole thing is bitter, bitter cold.
Yeah, so the storm totals, the ones that have been posted so far, they're from like 5 or 6 o'clock last night, so they're probably a little bit on the low side, but anywhere from 3.5 inches to more than a foot, and that's from south to north, which makes sense. The north got more snow in the morning, so their total's a little bit higher, but we all got that steady snow last night that added up to at least a few inches across all of central New York. So an okay storm, kind of a strange setup, just with the snow in the morning and then a pretty long break, and then the steady snow didn't come till the afternoon. So it's, very widespread totals from 3.5 to over a foot. Then there's more lake effect on the way today, but that's mainly North Country stuff. And that's pretty persistent, heavy lake effect snow, something they get, a couple times a year.
Yeah.
So the bigger story for us is the cold for today, tomorrow. We're a lot colder now. We have the wind that will stick around all day today, so that's going to make us feel like below zero probably all day in most spots. And then low temperatures tonight will actually be below zero. So if we put any little bit of wind on top of that, it's going to feel even colder, and I think we will. We'll do it all over again tomorrow, too. High temperatures will be in the single digits, feeling like below zero. It's not going to be till Friday. We'll get back in the teens, and then this weekend we're a lot warmer.
I got to tell you that watching the national news and the Weather Channel and any of the cable news networks, they're all going nuts over this cold weather, and I get it. Maybe it's colder in some places than it normally is, but for us, I don't know. I seem to remember last year in February, we spent the whole month of February like with a below zero temperature at some point every 24-hour period in February. It seemed. So this is going to be cold, but I mean, come on, these guys are overreacting.
It is, and this is like the same cold that we had last week.
Yeah.
So the reason why I think a lot of this, you're hearing a lot of, I don't want to say hype because it's not necessarily hype for us, but the Midwest got the core of the cold air.
Weren't they negative 50 or something?
Wind chills.
Yeah, negative 50,
wind chill.
negative 60 wind chills.
Yeah.
I think the temperatures themselves were 20, 30 below zero, which, it is the Midwest, and they're just geographically inclined to get air to move in from Canada and that area.
Yeah.
So I can remember in college, I went to college at Iowa State. We had, I think we had like half a dozen cold days, not snow days, cold days because of wind chill. And, the wind's going to go really far across the plains. So,
and even around here, you might see a little of that with schools opening a little bit later if it becomes really windy and sub-zero. Schools, districts that have a lot of kids walking to school, you will see that here as well. But
and it definitely is dangerous, and it's dangerously cold here too. But it's just not anything that we haven't.
Can I bring up one exaggeration? Last night on NBC Nightly News, I tweeted this out. The reporter came on and she was wearing protective goggles because she was fearing that her cornea was going to freeze. I'm like, you look like such a goof. How would they let you go on camera like that? And that was her story. Be careful, your eyes could freeze. Oh, Lord. This is out of... The people in Canada got to be looking down and saying, what is wrong with these
stupid Americans?
These stupid Americans.
What are they talking about?
All right. So,
Sorry,
but the reality is, though, we've grown up in this. We live in this. Be careful out there. It's really, really cold. Don't be stupid.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way to talk about it. All right, Rachel, thanks. We appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
All right. Rachel, being a snowmobiler, they got a lot of snow to the north, and there's plenty of snow to groom right now. This is a full-fledged winter, certainly in the North Country.
Yeah, I'm sure she and others, and Andrew got bitten by the bug
for the first time ever.
This
Andrew
weekend,
was out snowmobiling. He now has a new obsession.
And a new monthly bill.
Bill. That's exactly
Too bad that
right.
Litecoin ain't working out.
That ain't a cheap hobby.
No, it's
not at all. All right, hold on. Here we go. But today we'll be in the teens. It gets really cold tonight with winds picking up later on this afternoon, and we will be below zero for the next probably 3 days. Not wind chills, but actual temperatures below zero. The wind chill will make it feel a lot colder.
And then do you see early next week? I mean, this could change, but highs early next week are like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Warming up.
Mid-40s.
Yeah, this is crazy, isn't it? That's how you get sick. The temperature goes up and down.
That's not true. That's not true.
Yes, it is. You catch the flu that way. Who knows what's true and what isn't? In all reality, you kind of have to take everything with a grain of salt because, as Michael says this morning, there are a lot of snake oil salesmen out there. But this group in Israel believes they have, and not just a treatment for cancer, but a cure that will be a 100% cure. And they believe it will be available to everyone within 3 years. It has just been tested on rodents, and it will be tested now on humans.
Wow.
It's groundbreaking. So, and it's all of this stuff, where they're able to, each person, according to the story, each person with a cancer, in some individual cancer, whatever it is that they have, each treatment will be designed for that person's problem. And so then that medicine completely targets and it works for that person. This, if it is all 100% true and it all works out. And, side effects and everything else. But let's not forget that it wasn't that long ago when if you contracted the AIDS virus, that was a death sentence. Think of the people who died of AIDS in the 80s and even into the 90s. And then they came up with this cocktail that it doesn't cure someone from AIDS. They still carry the virus, but they live a Magic Johnson magic life, right?
Yeah.
Look at Magic Johnson.
It's unbelievable.
So does this mean like people will say, okay, there's a cure for cancer. I'm going to just keep smoking cigarettes.
I thought of that this morning as I was kind of going off over the story. It's like, I'm just going to keep smoking.
It's so interesting you say that.
Do you think that would happen? Because some say that, and with the AIDS virus, that it allows dangerous sex that people think, well, it doesn't matter anymore. I don't die from AIDS, so I'm not going to worry about it. So,
I mean, there are other issues with smoking, like constant being stuffed up and, not being able to breathe. Who wants that?
But... Listen, sometimes he comes in and he's wheezing. We can hear you wheezing.
Yeah,
that's because there's crap in your lungs.
Yeah, I think I'm out so much better. I've noticed how much better I'm breathing.
Yeah.
I said to you yesterday, I'm getting my laugh back. I lost my laugh for a while there,
Well, it's because you were so angry. It was awful.
Well,
you mean not psychologically?
No,
okay,
but I would start to laugh, and it's like the air just wouldn't come through.
Right.
So it was.
Yeah, go. You still. There's still can't. Let's not forget, smoking still causes heart disease, which is the leading killer in America. So that should not be a pass for people to. But the reality is, I think of
gumming up. Here's another thing too. A lot of people say if the cancer doesn't get you when you smoke, your whole body gets gummed up with tar. I mean, in your veins.
I'll talk more about this coming up. On this, what this company says is a cure. I want to read right from the story and give you the details that are out there. But I think of the kids. That the number of kids that are in cancer wards, forget everybody else. Just think about all those children that contract some sort of cancer at such an early age. And, they go through these horrible operations, and this would cure all of that. If this is true, this would cure all of that. How do we handle that as a country? They always say, well, they'll never, it's just like they're never going to have a car that runs on water. Because, those oil companies couldn't. What do the pharmaceuticals do? Well, they're going to certainly try to make a lot of money off this. But, all of these cancer wards and all of this stuff, it's pretty big business. Watch TV. You see one every other commercial, it seems.
And the treatment drugs.
Kind of wonder. And these treatment drugs, it would eliminate chemotherapy. It would eliminate radiation, all of that stuff. Supposedly, if it's all true. We'll get into more of it coming up. Joe Beatrice is I'm hearing everybody talk about how he is a lifelong Utican, and he's running for the Common Council. The seat's currently being held by Samantha Colosimo Testa.
Who's come out and support Joe?
She
already.
has.
Yeah.
She must love opponents. She must love a good fight.
Well, I think
Is she termed out, or she vowed to not run again because of the term?
Got her eyes
we
on something
think
else.
that I'm hearing that she has her eyes on something else, or not. I mean, we don't know yet. Joe, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. How are you, Bill?
Good. So I guess I'll just start out by saying a lot of people talking about how you're a lifelong Utican. So you grew up here.
Grew up here. I was born in St. Luke's Hospital, and I've never left the area. I lived in North Utica my whole life. With the exception of a couple years, I lived in South Utica. But I basically actually live on I was raised on Willow Drive, and I live on Reels Drive, which, if you're familiar with North Utica, it's right around the block from each other. So I haven't journeyed too far.
So what? I know it's early, and you just announced, and I don't want to get it. We'll get you in studio at some point, and we'll talk turkey. But what's your reason for running?
Well, I always, as a little kid, Bill, my dad, he was involved in politics. He passed away at a young age. I was 7 or 8 when he passed away at the age of 30, and I don't remember a real lot, but I remember, him having meetings. He was actually the president of the Young Republicans. And as time went on, I'd hear, after he passed, I would hear different people would tell me, geez, your father was a great guy, and he was, very bright guy and was very into the Republican Party. And I was having coffee a few years ago, and these guys were talking about this website that you can go on, and any articles that were ever printed come up.
Yeah.
So I went to the website, and I typed in his name, and I couldn't believe all the stuff that came up. Like, I know that, John Buckley, who was the judge, was my father's good friend, but when you read in the articles, they were both young guys going together, and it kind of made me think, geez, where would my dad have been?
Yeah.
If he didn't get ill, and just different things like that. Plus, I've always helped out the local, even back from when Councilwoman Masloom ran. I helped her out. Last couple of years, I helped Samantha out. I've always been, into the community and, helped out. And the last couple of years, I've really got active in it. I've been to all the neighborhood meetings. I started going to the Common Council meetings. And, I just thought it was my time right now. I'm getting close. I'm going to be 58 next month. And it's something that I want to put my head into. I work for Coca-Cola, and my business is basically customer service. There's a lot of people that tell me, why would you want to do this? People call you this and that. But I love that. That I'm out with my girl, my fiance, at 9 o'clock at night on Saturday night, and I'll get a customer calling me that their fountain system's not working. And, I can't fix it right then, but I can give them the instructions on who to call to get it fixed. And that's kind of how I feel that I would be with my constituents. When, somebody calls me, the one thing I can promise that I will do is I will return their phone call. Right. I'm not going to be able to fix their problem there, but I will return their phone call and follow up. That's what 38 years. I'm actually I'm on the thruway now, heading to a meeting in Syracuse. That's what I do. That's how I operate, and that's how I would continue to serve the people the same way.
By the way, do you have any old Coca-Cola memorabilia? That stuff that you get when you work there, that's the stuff that's really worth something, I'm telling you.
That's what Bill wants.
Bill, you would laugh. When I first started, and I started in March of 1981 in Marcy. I was working. I went there to work in the summer, and I never went back to school. But we at that time we had to go upstairs, and we threw so much stuff away. Kind of like when you hear the stories about everybody's mother threw their baseball cards out. It's the same. You couldn't imagine the machines and the items that we threw away back in the day. They're actually buried in back of the plant in Marcy. If you ever went there.
All right, I'll come over there with a shovel later.
Your metal detector and your shovel.
All right, we'll get you in studio, Joe. I appreciate your time this morning. Drive safely, and again, congratulations on the run. I'm not sure that you have an opponent as of yet, and it'll be interesting to see what Samantha's plans are.
Okay, thank you so much for having me, Bill. I appreciate it.
All right, Joe.
Have
thanks.
a good day.
Joe Beatrice, running for the Comic Council in North Utica. By the way, the Syracuse game is tonight. They're playing Pitt tonight. I'm a very loyal. I'm addicted. My wife says to, I hate going out on a night like Saturday night. We went out and it was great, and we saw a great show on Saturday night, but. The game was on, and I taped it, and I told everybody in the house, I don't know what pops up on your phone, don't tell me. And my daughter was there with her friend, and I saw them both look at their phone, and they were smiling. They both had a smile on their faces, and I saw them each kind of frown a little bit and look down, and they wouldn't make eye contact with me. At that point, I knew it was bad. And it was bad. It was awful. Probably the worst game, Davey, they played all season long. This is worse than the Georgia Tech game.
Yeah, they were down 43-26 at half.
Anyway, for the first time, I'm like, I'm not sure. Am I going to watch tonight? I've had all this hope that this team was so much better than it was, and it has been. We've seen it play incredibly well. How is it then that all of a sudden they turn around and play like high schoolers? I don't get it.
It's like night and day.
Bad high schoolers, by the way. Anyway, the game is on WSTM tonight at 8 o'clock if you're in Rome or Oneida. And if you're in the Utica or Valley Spectrum cable or whatever, it's on WPNY at 8 p.m. tonight.
Now, I do not have cable, but I do get PNY. So
that you do get.
I look forward to watching the game tonight.
You going to watch,
Always
Davey?
listen to it.
Yeah, you can always listen. That's true.
No, that's what I usually do. If the game's not on my antenna cable or whatever you call it over the air, I'll listen to it on the radio.
Here's the headline: Israeli scientists. Now, this is amazing if it is true. And Mike, what did he say earlier? It's awesome if this is true, but there are a lot of snake oil salesmen out there. Be careful, beware of this story. And that is true. However, sooner or later, they're going to have to come up with a cure. And it's something we've talked about for years and years and years, a cure for cancer. And here's the headline: Israeli scientists say they will have a complete cure for cancer within a year. And it should be available within 3 years. And it is while it does not seem possible, the company says this is a complete cure. It was reported on Monday. They claim it will be brief, cheap, and effective. Now listen to this. They feel that with this cure, you will take the medicine. It will target the problem, customized to each individual.
Okay.
Almost no side effects. You won't lose your hair. You won't, any of the stuff that happens, the fatigue, the throwing up, all of that stuff that happens with chemo and with radiation. You will not experience any of that. And you will only need to take the medicine for guess how long? This is the most amazing part.
It's a one shot.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
You'll take medicine for 2 weeks.
Wow. That's unbelievable.
And this would be miraculous if true. And it says here, our cancer cure will be effective from day one, will last a duration of a few weeks, and will have no or minimal side effects at a much lower cost than most other treatments on the market. Our solution will be both generic and personal. It's called Mutato, Mutato, which stands for multi-target toxin, and it literally targets the problem. Researchers said the drug is essentially on the scale of a cancer antibiotic, a disruption technology of the highest order. It has been tested on rodents and is now being tested on humans. Is that not just incredible?
It is
real. What that would do for so many people. And how do you? I mean, you're the father of a toddler, and you think about when you see these stories. It breaks your heart when you see kids having to go through this. Kids that have not even lived their lives, and realizing that this could be the answer.
Yeah, and I mean, right down the hall, one of our sister stations, Big Frog, they're preparing for their big St. Jude radiothon that they're going to do. I think later they're going to do it next month. But I mean, you just think of the number of children who are either born with this disease or somehow acquire it and can't get rid of it, and the treatments they go through and the wear and tear that it just has on their body. In the best case scenario that they survive, this would be. And really, it says something, too, for all the, a lot of people get upset about treatment and testing on animals. I mean, if you can test some rats and you can eradicate cancer.
Well, they'll still be against that. Believe me.
Well,
those
I
people
won't
will
be.
still be.
You want to be a crazy person?
There's a group out
fine.
there that would be debating over, do I save the puppy or do I save the toddler that's, they're both drowning in the pond. I get it. But which one should I save?
Well, my recommendation is we throw your butt in.
Yeah.
We get the baby and the puppy out.
Yeah. I think I completely agree. A guy in Florida had spent 41 days in jail and missed Christmas with his family because a cop said a white substance in his car was heroin. Turns out that white substance was laundry detergent. The cop was fired, and here's what they have to say about it.
I had 92 grams of laundry soap in my door. And that's
92 grams. That's a lot of laundry soap.
Jeez,
You're going to snort that.
Not in a container?
Ooh.
What
I don't understand
the heck
it.
is he doing?
Well, he's probably trying to deodorize the car, make the car smell a little bit better.
Could be.
Right?
was falsely charged for trafficking of heroin. He showed me a picture of the field test kit that he supposedly conducted on his phone. He never actually showed me the field test kit. So there was really no way I was getting out of jail. Police corruption is something you always hear about or you see in the movies. Planning to move forward with my life and go back to work. And
his goal is to clean things up on the police system. Brian Miller making his way in, and Brian, good morning, Assemblyman Brian Miller. Before I get to you, do you mind if I take? Tom has been waiting and waiting. Do you mind
Absolutely.
if I get
Go ahead.
Tom from Herkimer on the line now? Tom and Herkimer, good morning.
Oh, Herkimer.
Herkimer.
Oh, did I say
What?
Did I say Herkimer?
Yes, it's Little Falls. And by the way, Mr. Miller represents Little Falls among 100 other places in that.
Well, yeah.
I just won
$10 from somebody, and I won't say who said I'll give you $10 if you actually said a lot more, but I'll take the $10. if you say when Tom comes on next, that it's Tom from Herkimer and not Tom from Little Falls. So there it is. I win my $10.
Well, anyway,
Yeah.
okay.
You don't care at all.
The governor, in his State of the State message or whatever, he said he's going to be more progressive. Now, in the dictionary, progressive means
moving forward, advancing, proceeding in steps, continuing steadily, making better conditions. The second definition is Progressive Party, which is the name that President Woodrow Wilson gave to socialism.
Yeah.
So which way are we going? Are we going forward or are we going to socialism?
I think, really all the stuff he's just pushing right now has nothing to do with socialism, to be honest with you.
Well, we'll see.
Well,
the gun seizure, maybe.
No, we won't see, Tom. It doesn't. None of, even the gun seizure. It's not socialism.
No,
it is impeding our. I believe it impedes our rights. But socialism is a completely different thing. But I think it's in the eyes of the beholder, right?
But
let me finish. In the eyes of the beholder, where he sees himself as progressing, finally moving to an area where we can all be safe. And that is I imagine, his definition of he'll be more progressive. But obviously, Tom, as a staunch conservative, you'd say he's more of a progressive, like the Progressive Party.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Tom from Herkimer, another $10. I swear to God.
Oh, by the way, I suggested to Jim yesterday that you get some of the info. It was announced on Friday who the entertainment is going to be at the Great American Irish Festival, and they also announced the
Grand Marshal. Yes. Paul Buckley is the Grand Marshal. No,
he's not.
No, it's John Sullivan, actually, who is a good man.
No doubt about it. And I've heard a lot of people talk very positively about him, and that it is a great honor and all of that stuff. So we're still gunning for Buckley. I'm still pumping for him.
Well, yeah.
Right, cool.
Why not?
Thanks,
I don't know how many were nominated, but his name might have been on the list.
Hold on, Tom from Herkimer. Hold on. I'm going to ask you a question.
Just a quick thing. I was told, did he design or have a hand in the cultural center?
Yes, actually, he and his brother Jim run the construction company that's building it.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Yes, someone mentioned that to me as well.
But he's a local guy, right? I mean, he's involved with Whitesboro and
brother
sports.
And both of their wives, they were all at the event. Yeah, they are local people, and they're also very active in their church, which is the church diagonally across the street from the new cultural building.
All right, very, very cool. All right, Tom from Herkimer. Thanks. Another one. Okay, you have a good day.
You're up to $40, Bill.
Okay.
And I didn't bring that up as like some type of a slam or a dig. I mean, people would say, well, who is the guy? If they don't know him, who is he? What's he done? And he's one of the people responsible for literally erecting that building.
But I had heard people saying, "Oh, he's not from here." Yeah, he is. He is. Yeah. By the way, Mayor Blask is writing me a $40 check now. The Little Falls Mayor, Mayor Blask. So there we go. Thanks. Thanks, Mark. That was cool. And Brian Miller is in studio here right now. We have a lot. Are you good for some time here? Because we have a lot to go over.
We're good.
All right.
Everything's good. Let's talk about what's been going on in Albany over the last 3.5 weeks.
If you felt helpless before as a Republican in Albany, boy, in the Assembly, now you don't have a single opportunity to have anybody block some of this stuff because the Senate is all Democrat now, and there's no. I thought there might be an upstate versus downstate type coalition that kind of.
Well, that's what we were hoping for.
It's not happening.
Upstate, downstate. We understand our role in the Assembly as Republicans. We research, debate the bills. My first 2 years, we had this. The Republican-held Senate over there to keep sanity. There. It's not there anymore. And
have you sent a note to Joe Griffo? Something like hey, how does it feel? How do you like it? Something like that?
No, I wouldn't do that to Joe. He's
Wouldn't
got enough on his plate.
All right, well, let's talk about a few of the things. Let's get into the Second Amendment stuff, the gun laws, and I'd like your clarification on some of this stuff, because part of what I'm looking at, the bump stock, chances you're going to get a staunch Second Amendment person. Someone far to the right is going to challenge you on that. But if there was one area to give, I think bump stocks, most people would say.
It's already federally banned anyways.
Yeah. But this other stuff is repetitive and duplicate and duplicating laws that are already on the books. For instance, going in and if you feel somebody is mentally ill and a danger to someone else or themselves, you can go in and remove their guns. The difference is now you don't have to go to the authorities anymore. A teacher, someone could go right to a judge. A
coach, anybody that works in the schools can do it. These laws are already on the books, and the law enforcement is already doing what they need to do to enforce what's already there.
Right.
What's happening now is the other side of the aisle is just piling more regulations on top of these.
Yeah.
So they're
like the background check.
The background check
waiting period
went from 3 days to 30 now.
Yeah.
They're just picking away.
Correct me if I'm wrong. We already had some of the strongest gun laws, if not the strongest gun laws in the United States.
We already have the strongest gun laws.
And I think I was reading something that Sheriff Mashel said in an interview yesterday. We're just passing more restrictions on to law-abiding citizens.
That's all it is.
Yeah. It's not changing absolutely anything, although the governor claims this would have prevented the shooting in, wherever, one of these mass shootings.
It all comes down to mental illness. We should be putting more money there. That's where it is. These laws are passed for the law-abiding sane citizen. If there's mental issues out there, we need to address them, and we need to look and put more effort in that avenue.
If you were to look at the correlation between the rise in these mass shootings, because it does seem like it's an awful cheap word to use, but it seems like a fad. If you think about it, back in the 1970s, I've been watching some of these documentaries, and you've got the what's his name, the files of
Bundy, is it?
Bundy,
yeah.
And there was a fad that went in where you try to shoot the president. I think Ford was shot at like 3 or 4 times. Reagan was shot, and that we've moved on past that. There were bomb scares back then. It was a big thing. And now it seems like mass shootings are the big thing. But the one correlation I kind of wonder about is the decrease, and this governor did it. He shut down facilities, mental facilities. He has pulled funding from mental facilities in the area. If you talk to people who do that work, they'll say their hands are now tied. In many cases, they don't have any option for people. I wonder if there's a correlation between these mass shootings and the decrease in funding for to treat mental illness.
You can look at all the data. I don't have it in front of me, but it's there. We have the homeless situation all over the place. A lot of the homeless, unfortunately, have mental disabilities. But a fad, it's a tough thing to call it. I wish it would just go
it's
away.
An awful word. It's a cheap word to use, but it almost seems like it's the thing for this young loner male that wants to go out and make a name for himself.
We got things we didn't have back in the 70s, Bill. We got social media and there's 24-hour news
Good
system.
Point.
And they get notoriety. Look what's going on.
Well, and if you look at, they just released the investigation results into Stephen Paddock, who was the Las Vegas shooter, and they were not able to come up with a motive other than
they can't come up with anything there. And I get fad is the wrong word. Trend, but there isn't a word that's strong enough because this is so horrible when you go in and shoot up a school or you shoot up innocent people. Look what happened in Houston.
Yes,
it's terrible.
It's just crazy.
Okay, so on those, anything else on the gun laws that went into play yesterday that we might not?
No, they're pretty straightforward. Like we just talked, they're taking away more law-abiding citizens' rights.
So do you have to wait 30 days to get a shotgun or just a handgun?
Well. All
guns.
If your background check comes up compromised.
Well, and the problem with that is that what if you have a name that is similar or the same as someone else who is nefarious?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. That 30 days
Brian
might
Miller.
be right. Perfect example.
Everybody, that's a common name out there.
Yep.
Jim Smith.
Yep.
And then you have to get on the phone, do all you need to do.
Well, they'll take if you pop up that way, they'd be taking your guns away. You have to fight to get your guns back.
Get your guns back.
Yeah.
But we're not done voting on the gun package yet.
Okay.
So there are a bunch of separate bills that you've been voting on.
Separate bills come out. We get the package at the start of the week. We have the one with the plastic parts that we haven't voted on yet, and
which is a 3D printed gun.
3D printed gun. You can call it that, but you could have with a manufacturing process. You could have a a composite trigger being made now
Right,
or whatever.
right.
So, this could really go a long ways into different avenues. And a lot of these bills are designed that way.
Yeah.
But we have
make it more expensive maybe for the gun manufacturer where they could have used that material. They can't use it anymore.
Well, maybe to outlaw who knows what in the future.
Right. So far, none of this would have, I don't believe, any effect on Remington, except for the general feeling that New York is anti-gun. But do you think micro-stamping is going to come up, or
we haven't seen that?
You haven't seen that.
If it does, we're prepared to debate that.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Yeah,
the technology's been proven it doesn't doesn't work in California.
I want to ask you about the abortion that has passed, right?
That has passed. I
Right.
voted no on that.
So what does it mean? What it basically protects a woman's right to an abortion in New York State if, in fact, the Supreme Court were to strike down Roe v. Wade. Is that true?
True. It protects their rights to have late-term abortions if for certain health aspects. It's changed the criminal law on say there's a attack on a woman, the baby's killed at that time. There's no felony
no murder charge
on that.
Mm-hmm. But there is now?
There is now.
Okay.
It's already, everything's signed.
Okay. All right. So, correct me if I'm wrong. That would mean that if someone's attacked and the baby dies, that the baby inside the womb dies, the unborn child, could be a murder charge?
It was a murder charge.
And now it would not be?
Now it would not be.
Oh, that's...
So it's a lot of crazy things.
Yeah, I guess I have a problem with that. I'd like to be able... If someone attacks a woman, I'd like to be able to throw every possible thing we could at them.
I agree, but...
So now it's the definition of when is life.
Right, and there's a consistency element there, especially I think if you talk to those who are against abortion, they would say, well, the mother has the right at 6 months to end the child's life, but if a stranger attacks and it results in the child's life,
fair enough.
There is a consistency element there. I'm with you on the, it's pretty disgusting. And
I wish that we would be passing laws that, and there's some that have been passed here that protect children. We'll get into that, but passing laws that would make the penalty far more severe for a rapist, somebody who's been convicted of rape.
Oh, absolutely.
When you think about. You can do other crimes. There are people that are serving longer sentences for drug crimes than a guy that raped a woman, and that's just terrible when you think about it.
Yes.
It's a crazy world down in Albany right now.
Yeah.
We talked about the progressive. It's left liberal. We've really swung the pendulum the other way.
Yeah.
These are things that these are bills that haven't been able to see the light of day because of the Republican-controlled Senate. We don't have that anymore.
And this governor's all in.
He's talking about his first 100 days. This seems like budget time. Right now.
There's much more to get into. There's, of course, the abortion issue. We've been debating back and forth on this mugshot ban. I do understand those that are for it. I understand somebody who is plastered all over the papers and the TVs and it turns out they're not guilty. Their lives can oftentimes be ruined, even when acquitted. But at the same time, having a mugshot out there does benefit society.
Yes, it does.
Where are you on this one?
We're still looking at this right here,
Okay.
Bill. I can see both sides of the story.
Yep.
Until we, get it from research, like we're just talking about. And I'm watching Andrew over here on his computer. Everything's instantaneous right here.
Yeah.
And, mugshots, they could be used, and they could be used for information that's not true.
Right.
And it's all there.
So the guy who's been charged with playing around with a little boy, and it turns out that it's a family court thing, and somebody's going after the guy. I always come back to family court because I probably spent so much of my life there. That's an awful thing that happens to somebody. Pedophilia, you gain that label, you're good luck finding a job somewhere.
You're pretty much done.
Yeah, and even upon acquittal, it's hard to acquit that away.
You're proven guilty before you have due right. Process.
What's interesting too is on my Facebook feed or in some of my other social media feeds, there are news apps that are advertising for you to download them, and what they do is they take a and I'll recognize mugshots from, because it's all public use stuff.
Right, they're grabbing.
They'll grab mugshots from different stories and just throw them up there. And sometimes the crime doesn't match the mugshot.
Right. Yeah. On the other side, you've got the person who really is the pedophile, or really is the rapist, or really is the murderer. How do we pull this off? I guess they do it in Canada, but how do we pull this off? The media no longer has access to who this person is. We don't even,
make my job a lot harder.
This is a major, major change, and it takes away a tool that the authorities get to use for good as well. So you have a tough decision here.
It's on both sides.
Yeah,
it's on both sides. But the mugshot legislation, we haven't even talked about it yet because we've had early voting. We had voting
changed.
act that came up. There was a lot of
no more sneakers when you get signatures. Now it'll be winter boots.
Sneakers. You gotta wear winter boots. The whole climate's changed.
All right, there's a lot more to get into here. Yeah. Child Victims Act. I want to talk about that. I know you voted for that, and I appreciate that. Undocumented, free college. Talk about that issue. And there's a couple of more that have popped in there as well. This is a busy time you have with a full Democratic majority in the Senate and the Assembly. On the other side of the break, we'll do a free money question from Hobica, give you a chance to win $100. Brian Miller is in studio here, Assemblyman Brian Miller. We're going to talk about some of this new legislation that's being pushed through now with a Democrat-controlled Assembly and Democrat-controlled Senate. Pretty crazy. I want to tell you, from the creators of Sound of Music and South Pacific comes Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella. The Tony Award-winning Broadway musical comes to the Stanley on Thursday, February 7th. It's an awesome show. And you can call Broadway Utica for tickets at 315-724-7196, BroadwayUtica.com. Anytime this morning you hear the band, the hair band, Cinderella, which might play when we're coming back from a commercial, be the seventh caller through the phone lines at 315-736-0186 to win a pair of tickets to see Cinderella, not the band, but the musical. For tickets, 315-724-7196, or go to BroadwayUtica.com. All right, Brian, you voted, Brian Miller, Assemblyman, you voted for the Child Victims Act. This has been something that I always thought it was I always kind of felt like it was the Democrats that were blocking this. But turns out maybe it was the Republican Senate. And why was it being blocked, and what does this legislation do?
I don't know why it was being blocked over in the Senate for so many years. If you look at the vote that came out this last week, it was 63-0. They were all in favor.
And what happened?
So I don't know.
All right, what is the legislation? So this basically opens up the statute of limitations.
Statute of limitations for the victims of child abuse.
Now, this one, there was a clear lobby from religion, and not just the Catholic. Everybody blames the Catholics on this, but it was not just Catholics. There was a huge lobby against having this thing happen because of the priest cases.
Yes, there was. Especially the Catholic coalition down there. But last week they changed their position with no position.
Much better position.
Much better position to be in.
Yeah.
It made sense. I listened to the individual you had here on your show.
Yeah, it was rough to listen to.
It was a heart-wrenching story that they had. And
did that affect your decision in the process?
No, I voted yes for it last time around.
I'm glad you did.
And it makes sense. We understand that the victims are this never happened to me, so I wouldn't know how they feel.
Right, and that's the thing. I'm so sick and tired of hearing politicians say, well, why wouldn't they have come forward 20 years ago? It must not be true. I think we were talking earlier this morning, it might have been during a break, but we judge things based on what has happened to us in our lives, our own experiences. Therefore, if you haven't had the experience of being violated by an adult as a child, how in the world would you know how that person's going to react?
Right. So, like I said, we had this person here on your show. We listened and we talked to a lot of legislators, and there was a lot of heartfelt stories on the floor on what happened. So we understand.
Yeah.
So the statute of limitations will be opened up until they're for a civil case until the individual's 55 years old.
Wow. Well, that's a big move.
And it's being debated in I believe in the Pennsylvania legislature at this time. But
you said civil though. It's a civil case.
Civil case.
No statute of limitation extension on
criminal. I believe that's moved up from 23 years old to 28.
Is that in Pennsylvania?
No, that's
here.
That's
here.
here.
Okay. So
I don't have the bill in front of me.
So this would be civil, and what is? But it does change the statute of limitations on criminal as well.
I believe it does.
Okay. To what? Do you have any idea?
I think it's a 1-year window.
Okay.
Opened up.
So you could be how old? Is there an age limit?
I believe it's 28. I don't have the bill right here.
Up until 28, if you were to then say a report, you'd have a 1-year period to be able to fight your case at that point. So,
but the civil case, it could cost these institutions billions.
Yeah.
That was an argument on the floor. And there was good debate. There was three assembly people that voted no for this.
Mm-hmm. We're talking about religious institutions.
The lobby has. There's been a Jewish lobby against this. There has been a Catholic lobby against this legislation. It's been very strong over the years. It goes but long before Brian was ever there.
Yeah, it's been going for a long time.
I respect religious organizations, but to say it's going to cost them billions, it's not their money anyway. It's donated by their parishioners.
True. Yeah.
Secondly, to shield child sexual predators, be happy you're giving up billions and not, years of your life, because that's really what it should be.
Yeah.
It should be years of your life, not billions of dollars.
Considering these violations took years of these kids' lives away.
Yeah, I have no sympathy.
Here's some legislation I'd love to see you go after, and that is teachers are mandated reporters. A nurse is a mandated reporter. If you see something, it is the law. You must report it. Why shouldn't that be true for a scout leader? Why shouldn't that be true for a minister or a priest or other? I think that should be expanded a little bit. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a good thought. That's a good thought.
I mean, we're saying teachers.
These people, teachers, or these people who trained scout leaders are no different than basketball coaches out there.
And a coach. So the problem we've had is people see this stuff, and they, instead of going to the authorities, they kind of keep it in-house and take care of it on their own. No other crime would you find where that would be allowed, right? No other institution.
But how are they taking care of it on their own?
I know, that's the question.
And, it's really not happening there.
Yeah.
Just for clarity, he was Assemblyman Miller was right. It is 28 for criminal, and then there is a 1-year window during which victims of any age or time limit can come forward to prosecute.
Okay, so a criminal could be any.
I don't have the bill in front of me.
Got it. All right. Well, I am more comfortable with that. So you could be 50 years old, and you could be like, you know what, I'm coming forward. There's a 1-year window you have to argue your case.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay.
But,
and then,
I'm sorry, it's a year from the time you come forward?
So, for criminal cases, victims can seek prosecution until they turn 28. The bill also includes a 1-year window during which victims of any age or time limit can come forward to prosecute. So, like Bill said, say you're 60 years old and that's kind of old.
Well, not necessarily.
If you were 60 years old and there's somebody that's still alive. Yes, but I'm just saying to the attacker.
Hey, look at our cake winner today. She's 100.
That's right. So if a 60-year-old wants to open a criminal case, they have a year to bring evidence and to prove it.
Okay. And then the child abuse, the thing you couldn't report an instance of that. Someone, Johnny was abused when he was 9. If he came out when he was 25 and told the story, they couldn't do anything?
Depends on when it happened. Statute of limitations would have expired.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It has to do more with a statute than an age. I guess that's why I'm confused on it.
So if he was abused at 9, if he was abused at 9 and he comes out at 23, he's essentially has 5 years to prosecute to file
I guess
criminal
I'm a little
complaint.
confused by this. Sorry.
The fact is that we were protecting the abuser.
Yeah.
And basically saying, hey, if at 9 you weren't mature enough to come forward, then that's your own problem. I mean, that's just archaic when you think about it. Yeah. Okay, is it true that a non-American citizen in New York State can now go to college for free? What's the story here?
Yes, it is.
So that's possible.
No, that was voted on.
But what I'm saying, though, is it is based on economic hardship? Is it still based the same way? So, for instance, if I'm at an income level of let's say radio, and I try to send my kids to school, I try to send my kids
$125,000. No, you're not going to qualify.
If you count the pennies, it's six figures.
So how does this work? Is it based on, because if there's someone who's undocumented and their parents are physicians and they're
based on economics.
Okay, it is
like
based
anybody
on
else.
Yeah.
This is a noble gesture out there.
It's controversial, especially if you're a Republican. But at the same time, are we better off? And I know I'll be yelled at for this. Are we better off helping a poor young person get educated and become a constructive member of society than if we just ignore them? So where do you stand on this issue?
I can see that argument.
Yeah.
And, and when I look at these bills, I look at all sides of what goes on. But, they are undocumented citizens. We need federally to come up with a solution to this, and it's not going to happen right away.
Did you vote for it?
Did I vote for it?
I
voted against
it. I figured that. Yeah.
Okay, and we got people here that are citizens of
that aren't being taken care of.
That aren't being taken care of. We got student loans. The average student loan out there is what, $39,000?
Mm-hmm.
I wish.
And
that's average, Dan.
That's
You're
average.
Not average.
But we have to take care of our citizens first. I feel bad for the undocumented children there, but we have to, it has to be taken care of federally.
But we can see the argument, right? So the argument is that we're better off educating and helping these children than not. However, I just think that solving problems, it's a prioritizing again. Yeah, that's awesome, but what about taking care of the school issues?
We should be looking at
Utica schools that are.
We should be Utica schools. The poor schools, the poor public schools.
Right. We haven't solved the public education problem in this state, and all of a sudden we're going down this road. It's just crazy.
Situation.
Yeah.
But the governor said the first 100 days are going to be a very progressive agenda, and these are things that couldn't see the light of day for the last 10 years, and now the first 100 days we're going to see them.
Yeah.
I can't believe the Utica School District did go forward with a lawsuit, I believe, a discrimination lawsuit against the governor, and it completely makes sense, and I believe it was thrown out.
It's based on the Constitution, where every child is entitled to a sound education,
but
how it's worded.
And add to that the fact that Utica is so rich with immigrants in so many different languages, and so many students in the public school system who weren't born here or whose parents weren't born here, and the struggles that come with that. To shortchange that district, teachers and funding and all the other things that every other district gets, that's not a case for discrimination, especially in 2018 and 2019. It's just unbelievable.
I
to
do
me.
understand the intent, but like you've said, there are other problems we should be worrying about.
We should be looking at student loans. We should be looking at people who've done it right.
Yeah.
We had a naturalized immigrant in my office, and he was always he was totally against the undocumented people here in the illegals.
Yeah, because he did it right.
His family did it right.
Right.
It cost him money. And
it's a lot of work.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It just, even when you talk about, I don't want to go too far, but, people talk about if you build a wall on the southern border, you're racist. Walls are racist. And if you ask someone for an identification at a voting booth, you're a racist. Yet, to shortchange a district where so many students are immigrants and of color, to shortchange them in an education in public schools, and no one else thinks that's racism.
Well,
it's just unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
And it continues. They will continue again this year. The Utica School District and other local districts will be shortchanged.
Brian, you're going to be you helped school districts out last year that were in trouble. You're going to be right back having to do it all over again, and it's going to be tough in the minority, but. Here we go again. It's like Groundhog Day. We hear this story. It's the same story year in and year out. The formula needs to be fixed. They got to figure out.
Fixed.
we don't tackle the real problem. We just throw money at it.
We looked at the school runs, and yes, there is more money available for our schools, but the formula has to be looked at.
Right.
There's 21 to 28 different categories, so we're we're digging in and try to understand this formula. Maybe we're crazy doing it, but we look at some schools where they're seeing a decrease in foundation aid, but not necessarily true. Their teaching aid is still and program aid still going up, but they had different drops in different aspects of the formula. So that has to be tackled.
And the problem is when you talk to somebody from Long Island, they're like, "Listen, we fund you people. Don't complain to us. We fund your schools." That's how they see it. Yeah. They pay on those high property
but
values. I know.
They don't understand upstate New York.
Right.
We had some.
They think they are upstate.
Yes, they think they are upstate. But upstate New York, we have all types of situations. We can talk about transportation aid all day long, about parity between the MTA and upstate.
Here's another quick one. I love the idea of putting a camera on every bus to stop people from driving through. I love the idea of seat belts. How are we going to pay for that? How do schools pay for it? And once again, there's going to be a mandate.
Another unfunded mandate.
Sent down the pike.
Down the pike. Yep. Everything we've talked about in the last few weeks has been unfunded mandates.
Brian Miller, Assemblyman, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right. They're using a GoFundMe page to fund it. It is called Words, and it involves some acting. They're from Oriskany. I believe it is actually taped in Oriskany. Alex Moore and Chris Light are the two that are behind it. Chris Light standing by right now. Good morning, Chris.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Tell me about the. Are you the short one? There's a short one in the open I saw, and a taller guy. Are you the short guy?
I'm usually yeah.
Okay, cool. Nothing against that. I'm pretty tall myself. All right, what's your story? What is it? Tell us about this series you guys are trying to do.
So it's called Words mostly because we pick a letter from the alphabet and we pick a word that's either kind of like a word you're not supposed to use or a word that is used a lot, and we either kind of explain it in a very centrist kind of view on, what does this word really mean and who is saying it. It's kind of like Sesame Street for adults, but like without puppets.
Okay.
I like it.
All right, fair enough. So give us an example. So you pick a word. Example.
So we have, we did the X word for episode 2.
Okay,
and,
nice.
That was xenophobe. It took a while to find an X word that was relevant.
Yeah. And and that became basically the premise, right?
Yeah.
For everything else that happens. And talk about the main characters here, because there's a little. Is this reality? Is there some acting in here? There really is some acting, right?
Oh yeah, no. Most of it is scripted. I write it and direct the show, and it's all scripted, but most of it is based on real life accounts of what's happened to people. Episode 1 is the F word, not the actual F word you're thinking of, more like the gay slur. And that actually happened to a friend of mine where he walked in a store and a lady said, "Hon, you're always welcome here." And he went, "Okay." And she went, "Yeah, my grandson's up too." And he was like, "What?"
So maybe she was out of touch with the fact that that's maybe
it's not a good word.
Well, yeah, but that's always not been an acceptable word, really. I mean, it's different today, acceptable, but it's not like that was acceptable.
Yeah. It was more commonly used.
So, do you always tackle issues like this that are big issues in the country and social issues?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's the whole point of the show. I was actually worried when we started that the point of the show might not be relevant anymore when we were getting into it, and it seems like it just got more relevant as we were going.
But in the last few years, it's become pretty relevant, I guess.
Yeah.
And a lot of this is because there are people that say, we become too politically correct. So I think the pendulum tends to swing, and it's swinging the other way. And when it swings the other way, it's going to swing too far. It always just seems to swing too far.
And that's actually the whole point of the show that we really wanted to try to hit hard on, is that it's not like a super liberal show where we yell at you for everything you say and go, you shouldn't say things like that. And it's not a super, right view where we're going, say whatever you want. It's a very middle centrist view on like, hey, some words we all know, like just don't say because why are you doing it?
Yeah.
And other words, like episode 3 is the C word. And we actually explain that word's actually really silly to be a swear word, and that it was in Grey's Anatomy. It was in the medical journal for years. It turned into a bad word because one guy thought it was icky and literally said it's a very bad word for a very bad thing. And that's what made it a swear word. So we're also kind of educating on this whole, like, words every day that people are like, oh, you shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
Why? What does that word mean?
It is interesting how today my second grade teacher was, because I think a kid when I was in second grade might have said the F word. And I'm pretty sure I remember Mrs. Crescent, who I loved, and she went through this whole thing about how it's just a word. It's the meaning that you put. So that's kind of like what you guys are doing here, right?
Yes, actually, we have that. So every episode opens with the definition of the word of the episode, and then kind of my definition. So, like, episode 1 is literally just words used to communicate, ideas to other people, and then my definition comes up, and it's like, but most of the time, people are terrible at this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the whole point, is to say a lot of these words, they're sounds we make with our mouths, and you kind of take them the way that you take them.
All right, fair enough. So you want people to cough up a little cash in order for you guys to fund the project, right?
Yes, that would be fantastic.
Explain how. So you're using GoFundMe or something like that?
Yeah, we are. And you can get to our GoFundMe through our Facebook page for Yellow House Media or Words the Show on Facebook. Both can go to the GoFundMe, or you can search for Words on the GoFundMe to itself. We have a lot of cool prizes on there. Some of them are cameos on the show, me writing you in. And we even have a musical episode we want to do about microaggressions that we need people for, and we'll put people in that episode.
Okay.
So there's a lot of stuff that they can get from donating into. And also the show it gives a lot of mess. Most people who've seen episodes are going, oh, thank you for finally saying that thing.
Okay, fair enough.
For the letter T, I've got something perfect for you. There's a very talented actor named Tom from Little Falls, and you could do a whole episode
on
Tom from Little Falls for letter
word
T.
For some is a vulgar word for some people.
And the S word too. I mean, people get really offended when you use it. I don't know if you're not supposed to say secretary. It's either
secretary,
receptionist,
or administrative assistant.
Yeah, you can't.
That's the exact kind of word we would do. It's like, secretary, why was it used, and now it's bad? Why? What happened?
Yeah.
Hey, sweetheart.
Yeah, that's
make me a copy.
All right, so
the evolution of language. It's interesting.
Search on Facebook, Words the Show, and what's the big goal? Are you looking to have this end up on one of the billion networks that are out there, or is this always going to be online? How much do you need, and where are you going with all of this?
So the main goal has always been with the show to have it on YouTube at first, and then see if we can get it on more of like a streaming site to try to get a little more budget so we can consistently make all 26, episodes that we want to make here. But we need to get the initial run going and at least the season end.
Okay.
We're looking for 4,500 would be the best to get in total to be able to do this, the way it deserves to be. And, that goal, especially in filming, we're small budget a lot here, so we can do a lot with a little. So with that, we could finish up the whole season and see where this whole show can go.
All right. And what's your background, you and the other guy?
Alex. So I have a degree in digital animation and a degree in TV and video production. And I've been doing work like this. I used to work at a news station, actually, and I've been doing work like I've been doing at Yellow House for the last 3 years.
Okay.
And the other guy, Alex, he's been working in this kind of stuff since like 2000, I think 10 or 2009.
Okay.
He's been doing this kind of stuff. We've done commercials, a lot of music videos. We have been working on a movie for a long time, 27 Matches. A lot of people know about that. But yeah, we both have been working in media and film for a very long time now, and we wanted to do something real, something that was gonna, hit people the way you always kind of wanted with stuff like that.
I like the concept, and it's relevant today. It really is.
$4,500 is very doable.
You're not asking for a lot of money.
You're not. Yeah.
All right, real cool, Chris. Again, they should search for you on Facebook. Search for Words the Show. Is that correct?
Yeah, Words the Show.
Okay, cool. All right, good luck out there, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks. I like to support people that are doing stuff like that because I've always tried to do stuff, and And it's always comes down to $4,500 is not a lot of money to pull off a project like that. But the concept's cool, right?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting.
Because it's all about the words and people's meaning and their interpretation. In this day and age, we are hypersensitive.
Yeah, and I like the element of, here's what one side might say, here's how other people take it. And
you did not just call me a secretary.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
here's the origin of the word.
It's sad.
Oh, I got a lesson.
Yeah.
I'll share my lesson with you.
I am what is the proper terminology now?
I think it's administrative professional.
Okay.
Receptionist works as well.
This movement has changed holidays, for God's sakes. You can't call it Secretary's Day anymore.
No, you can't. And even Governor Cuomo at the press conference when he was here for the flooding said assembly people. It's not an assembly man or woman anymore. So
assembly people.
Assembly person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, that's fine. I just feel like if it's a man, you should say assembly man. If it's a woman, you should say assembly woman.
My mailman's a woman.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not supposed to say that? Anyway,
and the other thing
is
secretary isn't unique to female.
Right.
You could be a man.
Mm-hmm.
A male
could be the Secretary of the Interior, the Secretary of Defense.
Yeah.
Or the Secretary of an office.
8:23. Hold on. We'll come back here and wrap the rest of this up. We do have Ryan Nobles from CNN coming up in a few minutes. Wednesday, January 30th. Hard to believe we're flying through this winter. Before you know it, 75 and sunny. Mm-hmm. Just around the corner. 8:23 at WIBX. Good morning, Ryan Nobles. Good morning. The government's back in session. People are going back to work. And now Mitch McConnell saying we're going to put a deal together. What do you think?
Well, I'm still pretty skeptical. I think that what the difference, I guess, between what we saw before Christmas and now is that they have these conference committees set up where they have actually, a small group of people in a room with from both the Senate and the House that are theoretically negotiating some deal that the entire Congress can get behind. But, immigration is, such a tough nut to crack. I mean, they've been fighting over immigration in some way, shape, or form for decades. And the idea that somehow in this very short window that the president has given them, that they're going to come up with a solution that's going to solve this problem, just seems unrealistic. One little thread in this bill could be enough to topple the whole thing and have the Ann Coulters or the Rush Limbaughs of the world say that they're not interested in it, and that'll be enough for the president to pull out. So Mitch McConnell can be optimistic all he wants. It's nice that he's actually starting to become involved in this situation, but I do think that in very short order, we're going to be right back where we were with a lot of nervous people worried that this government's going to shut down again.
What do you think that maybe Mitch McConnell ought to maybe reach out to Rush and Hannity and do a little sit down with them and put a deal together?
Yeah, just bring them into the room.
Yeah,
find out. Just have them determine what it is that they'll find acceptable. But Bill, I think you highlight an important problem here. The Rush Limbaughs of the world, and no offense to him, he's very successful. He does what he does for his listeners, and there's a reason that he does it. His motivation should not be the same as the motivation for a lawmaker. A talk show host has a very much different set of goals than a lawmaker does. And frankly, these lawmakers are going to have to make sacrifices in some way, shape, or form, both Republicans and Democrats. They're going to have to pass a bill that at least some portion of it forces them to hold their nose. Otherwise, there isn't going to be a compromise.
Yeah.
And I think there's a compromise out there that would be good for the country, that would force these politicians into both these camps to do something that's a little bit uncomfortable. And if you're a radio talk show host, you don't have to advocate for things that make you uncomfortable because you're not the one making those ultimate decisions.
Right.
And, when the president is kind of taking his guidance and advice from folks who aren't in that realm, who don't have that responsibility, I think that's where we're in a dangerous position. So we'll have to see. It seems as though the last time around, this group of people really kind of put the president in a bad position. He was, I think, pretty damaged by this politically. I think you can say that objectively. So perhaps this time around, he might look at this a little bit differently.
Well, it's interesting. John Zogby brought up an interesting point earlier in the week that basically politically, maybe it wasn't Zogby, it was our professor from Utica College who said politically, the president probably will do better if he uses a national emergency. And while he probably won't win that, by the time it's settled in court, he'll be able to put the Democrats in a position where they look like they're obstructionists and they don't care about the security of the nation. That might be the way he's going, which is going to leave Congress on both sides, Republican and Democrats, kind of hanging out there to dry.
Yeah, and I've often thought that this is how this is going to end because it's become pretty clear to anybody that's around President Trump that he feels, and a lot of his advisors feel the same way about this, that the only way that he can return back to the voters and ask for a second term in office is if the construction of that wall is underway. Yeah. I mean, it is the one tangible piece of policy that there's no getting around. Either the wall is being built or it's not being built. And so as a result, this is something that Democrats are just not going to give him. They're not going to come out of these conference committees with some sort of a plan to build a wall. So the only way he really gets that done is through a national emergency. And I think that your professor's correct, is that it actually is a win-win for President Trump because his base wants to see him battle against the Democrats and use every bit of power at his disposal. Yeah. So for him to take a bold move of calling for a national emergency, that shows him taking that step. And honestly, it inoculates Democrats on the Hill as well, that, then they can file a court challenge. We can get past the specter of a government shutdown. I've often thought that this was the exit ramp that was going to get us to where we ultimately we get past this impasse right now. I don't think that the president's legal argument is very strong here, especially if you're talking about a national emergency that you've been talking about for more than 3 months. You'd think that if emergency would constitute taking action immediately. But I do think that, I just don't see a scenario where the Democrats emerge with something that has funding for a wall in it. And as a result, I think this will be the president's only option.
What's your take? It looks like the possibility that the Mueller investigation is nearing an end.
Well, I mean, I think that we should be very cautious with that. That was the acting attorney general who said that the other day. And I don't know, he claims that he's very well versed in what's happening with this. There's some question as to whether or not he has ulterior motives in that regard. This may be a way for him to pressure Robert Mueller. I do think, and if you talk to the legal experts and the reporters that have been following this very closely, the indictment of Roger Stone does take this situation to a new level. It shows that Mueller is starting to close ranks here, and he's getting closer and closer to the heart of this matter. Now, when we say that it's close to wrapping up, I mean, close is kind of a fungible period of time. Does close mean 2 weeks? Does close mean 2 months? Does close mean 2 years?
Right.
That I still don't think we know. I mean, I do think he's heading in a certain direction, but, the idea that we'll have a definitive knowledge of when this is going to come to an end, I still think we don't know yet.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I believe Robert Mueller said, investigation, we just got started, and it's been 2 years, so we could go another 15,
Listen,
I feel like.
if you're on the International Space Station, from your perspective, we're close to Florida right now.
Exactly.
Think about it.
Yep.
Way to put it. Yep.
So, okay, I want to just call a spade a spade.
All right.
Let's get the truth out. What really went down? Is the Mueller investigation the big leaker? Did they leak to CNN and prep CNN cameras to be there and go in this big fashion to take out Roger Stone? Facts only, Brian. What's the story?
Well, I'm not on that reporting team, so I don't have enough knowledge to tell you chapter and verse exactly the way this whole thing went down. But this is what I will tell you, that, first of all, you'd never reveal your source in a situation like this. That is fundamentally a rule of journalism. But we've been very open with the kind of the clues that we picked up leading up to the idea of sending someone down to Florida to be prepared for this.
Yeah.
And just to give you a little background.
And Ryan, part of those clues have to include, you don't believe it. You think Mueller tipped him off. Part of these clues have to deal with the fact that Roger Stone is advertising that he's going to be apprehended.
Oh yeah, right. No, and so like there were two big clues. We knew that the grand jury was meeting on Thursday, which is out of the blue. They normally meet on a Friday, so that indicates that they needed to get something settled before the weekend. And then the second thing is, and this is how well versed our reporters are on this particular topic, they recognize that one of the prosecutors involved in the Mueller team who's specifically dealing with the investigation into Roger Stone, they noticed him leave the federal courthouse with a suitcase. So that was an indication to us that perhaps something was going down. But let me just, extrapolate this out a little further. I don't think people understand the volume of resources that we as a news organization devote to stories like this. Many of my colleagues spend hours and hours and hours sitting in front of people's homes with the hope that we might catch video like this.
Right.
This is not out of the ordinary that we would be staking out Roger Stone's house. We've done it, I'm sure, more than one time. This just happened to be the time that we catch it.
Okay.
There are, certainly there are times where you're given a heads up that this would be a good time to be in a place like this. I was at the Capitol the other day, and Nancy Pelosi's press secretary told us she's going to be leaving through this door at this time. If you want to get her, this would be a good place to get her. Yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
But in this case, this was gumshoe reporting. This is what we do. This is why we're one of the biggest, most powerful news organizations in the world, because we're willing to devote resources like this to get stories like this. And so, the incrimination that somehow, we're involved in some sort of inappropriate connection to Robert Mueller and his team is just ludicrous. And I can tell you, some of the Evan Perez, Sarah Murray, Shimon Prokopez, these are all my friends. Their office is right around the corner from mine. These guys wish that the Mueller team talked to them more than they do. That is a tight-lipped ship, and this is just good reporting. And the idea that we should be criticized for it. Hello, First Amendment. It's just beyond ridiculous.
I do not at all think you guys should be criticized for it, and that would be the question I would ask. Were you guys staked out there? And I don't mean you.
You don't
Ryan.
have a crew outside my house, do you?
Listen, I without tips, but without investigative reporting, and that's investigative reporting. If you kind of use the clues that you have, you're trying to figure this stuff out. If that's the way it happened, but the fact is, no one has any evidence that the Mueller team tipped you off. There's zero evidence to that. That's just a hypothesis. So. That would be irresponsible reporting, which was, by the way, all over the media and the news. So, all right, we are out of time. Ryan, thanks. We'll do it again next week. Enjoy.
All right, guys, have a good one.
Enjoy the polar vortex. All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. All right. Goodbye.